You might have already seen this clip, but just in case, I want you to know I'm going to be part of Painting with Fire again. So check it out. I've been using coffee stains off and on for a while in my artwork. This is coffee being stained on fabric. You can do this on paper and use that with encaustic. But this is just fabric, something new I've been investigating. It's the same principle though. You need to find a paper that works well. So what happened was I poured some coffee on the edges of this fabric. It's actually a sheet. And I let it seep into the center. And then I've also added more coffee. Sometimes I'll come back with just water in a spray bottle and spray it to further push the edge of that coffee stain. It does some interesting stuff on fabric, which is why lately I've liked fabric a lot. And this is the piece when it's dried. So this is a sheet, and this is an image that's printed on mulberry paper. This I do a lot of the times with encaustic, not for this demo though. So what I'm doing, since the image was too large to print in one shot, I tried to cut it, and I cut it wrong. So I ripped it up, threw it away, had to go and print another one, but I had to cut more paper. So this is me cutting paper, but that's Tengucho. That's not the paper I ended up using. I ended up using thin mulberry. So here it is again. Second try. I'm going to line this up and cut it so that the two images butt together. And I'm using magnets to hold the paper in place while I cut it. So I want to be careful when I cut this. Again, you can do this with encaustic on a panel. I'm just not doing it right now because this is the extra video. What I'm doing there is I'm just taking a wet brush, tracing around the image to get rid of paper that I don't really need. You don't have to do that. You've seen me do this in my previous video. Bonus video. That's what this is. So I'm just tearing the excess away. The nice thing about using thin mulberry paper for printing is I can do this in one layer. The Tengucho I mentioned earlier, sometimes I'll print two images and double it up on a panel or whatever I'm working on. This way I can just put this down with the print being one layer instead of two. Although it's two separate parts. And this is the first time I've done this on fabric. So at this point I don't know if it's going to work. Although later I did learn that it will work, and you will see that in this video. In this demo I'm using acrylic gel medium. So pretend this is on a panel if you want, and instead of acrylic medium I would be using encaustic medium. But I'm not doing that now. I'm using acrylic medium. So I want to make sure there's enough under the bottom. I'm squeezing it flat, I guess. And you can see I'm pulling it up off the table. This is before I learned about that fiberglass Teflon based roll of fabric that I showed you in the other video. So now I know better. Anyway, I flipped it over because I want to fill in some areas from the back where the acrylic medium didn't saturate all the way through. And I'm working on a metal tabletop, so those little black square things are magnets just to hold things down. The areas I circled are the areas that need more acrylic medium. Eventually I'll go over the whole back of this thing because I decided I like to paint the backs of these with acrylic gesso so that the image reads better. And that means I need a layer of encaustic medium first before the encaustic gesso. So now I'm checking this image to line it up. Looks like I can get it to work. What am I doing there?
I'm using magnets to hold everything in place. I end up squeegeeing the acrylic polymer medium stuff using cardboard tabs, so there's the potential for a lot of wrinkling and buckling. So magnets help things kind of stay in place without shifting until I get a head start on this thing. So there is the acrylic medium. Here I'm trying to slide it under where the waist area is, right there. And you can see I'm using a cardboard tab to squeegee this flat. And if I can do it without a white line showing through, that'd be great. So now I'm just finishing lifting the image up, adding some more medium as I go. And now I'm flipping it over again, because the same thing on the bottom half, there are some areas that need more acrylic medium. Because eventually I'm going to paint the back of this thing with acrylic gesso, and I don't want the white gesso to seep through and to be noticeable on the front. So once this is done, I'm going to basically paint the whole back with acrylic gesso. Here is what I have from the front so far. Now I brought it to the sewing machine. I like to use sewing to add lines to these things. It's almost like drawing with thread. So I kind of get a kick out of that. It also helps hold the layers of imagery in place, although I don't think that's an issue because I have enough acrylic medium to hold everything together. But you can see I'm using the sewing machine kind of like a pencil, just to draw stuff on this image. Mess it up a little bit. There it goes. Oh, ran out of bobbin thread, so I had to rethread this bobbin. Very important. Goes in under the front. Like that. Oh, wait. Like that. Then I have to thread the needle and try to pick up the bobbin thread on the bottom. And continue. And this happens to be a zigzag stitch. I like those. Now I'm working from the back. And this happens to be a different image, just to confuse you. But it's the same idea. So I'm working on this fabric. I just wanted to show you that sometimes I'll work from the back, depending which color thread I have in the machine, and which thread I would like to show on the front. Same kind of thing, making lines using the sewing machine. Now I flipped it over. What am I doing? Looks like I'm going to do it again, but on the front this time. I got to bunch this thing up to get it to fit under the foot of the sewing machine. Alright, so this is on the reverse, and I decided on this one to draw an area to give me a guide. So that's why I'm showing you this. There's a pencil line I put on there, and I'm going to try to follow that, I think. Yeah, there it goes. Anyway, So this is from the back. Okay, back to the first piece I started showing you. What I'm doing here is adding a border. I'm just making a straight stitch for this border. Then I guess I flipped it over. What am I doing there? Stitching it again from the front just to keep everything flat. I kind of got into sewing a little bit the last few years. Vintage sewing machines are great. I found them on eBay or somewhere, locally somewhere. Now I'm going over that stitch again with a zigzag stitch just because I like the way they look. So I'm going to run that down the whole edge of that. It also holds things flatter. And here I am cutting the end off because I want to flip that over and kind of clean it up. So this I do once I have at least 2 sides done. So that is a corner of the piece. And I'm working from the back again. You'll see in a minute what I'm doing here. Make enough stitches so it doesn't unravel. There you go. That's the corner. I do that to all 4 corners. Shut the machine off. And this is the finished piece.